ostatnich latach notujemy na całym świecie, również w Polsce, znaczący wzrost przypadków naruszeń wolności sumienia i wyznania o różnym natężeniu. Od etykietowania przez uprzedzenia i dyskryminację, aż po fizyczne prześladowania za przekonania religijne i wiarę. Niesie to za sobą szereg destrukcyjnych dla życia społecznego konsekwencji. Laboratorium Wolności Religijnej powstało w roku 2020 z inicjatywy Fundacji Prof. Teologię przy Wydziale Teologicznym Uniwersytetu Mikołaja Kopernika w Toruniu. Celem projektu jest przeciwdziałanie naruszaniu wolności sumienia i wyznania oraz dyskryminacji osób wierzących ze względu na wyznawaną religię. Jesteśmy przekonani, że edukacja i kształtowanie dobrych postaw, budowanie kultury dialogu opartego na wzajemnym szacunku i zaufaniu stanowią najbardziej właściwy środek prewencyjny wobec naruszeń wolności sumienia i wyznania.
Religia nie jest problemem. To uprzedzenia wobec osób wierzących prowadzą do niebezpiecznych zachowań.
Usuwając religię z życia publicznego, odcinasz korzenie kultury. Czy warto? Istnieje podstawowe prawo człowieka, o którym nie wolno zapominać na drodze braterstwa i pokoju. Jest to wolność religijna dla wyznawców wszystkich religii. Jesteśmy braćmi, jako dzieci jednego Boga. Gdzie religia, tam wolność.
Serdecznie dziękuję.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This event wouldn't be possible without the support of the Justice Funds managed by the Minister of Justice. And our event is a part of a bigger whole prepared for the years 2021-2023. And our activity is addressed at kind of prevention and the assistance for those who have been harmed, as well as creating the culture of social dialogue that will make religious freedom available to everyone. So during the press briefing, this was discussed and introduced, and on this occasion I would like Dr. Tomasz Chozorek to introduce us into this topic. So, Father Director, please take the floor. Thank you very much, and I extend my heartfelt welcome to the participants of this conference. I would like to thank you for joining us, because it required you to travel from faraway lands, but it only emphasizes the rank of this event. Some spheres of public life seem to be insignificant as long as they are not curbed or limited, or as long as they do not disappear. We are used to having the religious freedom protected, and once it's infringed, it arouses shock and vandalism, ridicule of religious people, dismissal, and ostracism have become a regularity in many places. In many places there is stereotyping, discrimination, and prejudice. But the careful observer can see that it is the same process, albeit at different stages, and that it starts with prejudice and ends with marginalization and physical extermination. And if it is possible to break this chain of hatred in the first stages, when the first symptoms appear, it's worth doing so. In recent years, however, we have seen strong discussions on topics that would certainly not have occurred to the authors of the great human rights documents of the 18th century and later in the 20th century. Religious freedom belonged to one of the first generation of human rights, and the protection of its manifestations was not only intended to prevent interreligious struggles, but also to protect the transcendent dimension of the person beyond the reach of the state. And thus, to the source of his or her dignity, since this is not the subject of some social contract, but something innate to the human being. It is not surprising that authoritarian systems have always seen an enemy in the free practice of religiosity and have sought to eliminate or limit it, since they have defined themselves monistically as the only power that at most allows graciously the practice of religion, and not as the one that recognizes it, religiosity, as something innate, natural, and itself as an organization that supports rather than eliminates its manifestations. Freedom of religion was at the top of hierarchy of freedom, as the guarantor and an anti-ideological gene that protected societies like a safety net from destructive experiments. It seems that the social changes of recent times, the increase in persecution and discrimination against religious people, stigmatization and aggression of all kinds, from hate speech through microaggression to vandalism and physical extermination, require solid scientific reflection to find solutions and to prevent causes rather than effects. For this, it will be helpful to reflect on the rulings of international tribunals, the legal solutions in different countries, and the philosophical description of the ideological situation, the historical resolution of certain disputes. The free exercise of religion is a certain social good that should be protected in the interests of the state. But what is this relationship of freedom of religion to other freedoms? Speech, assembly, education according to conviction, conscience, to other tasks of the state. The protection of the health of all citizens, for example. Can these relations be put back together? How to better help the victims of violations of freedom of religion, who cannot freely practice the liturgy, bring up their children according to their convictions, and are forced to violate their conscience by carrying out a corporate economic order contrary to their worldview. The clash of different freedoms presents a choice, and it is good to be aware of it. We are grateful to all specialists from many countries and various specialities dealing with education for religious freedom, issues of proselytism and blasphemy, religious art, medical law, representatives of organizations defending religious freedom, monitoring its respect, taking the side of victims and helping them in many ways, legal, psychological, to return to a normal life in which they do not have to renounce their religious freedom or lack thereof. We hope that these reflections will help through calm academic reflection to find a way to help victims of crimes based on religion or belief, because this perspective seems to be crucial, but also to draw a map of the situation with regard to two phenomena in particular, art and medicine. The presence of religious identity in democratic societies is not a threat, but an opportunity. After all, it is not a question of depriving individuals of anything, for example, an important dimension such as religiosity, but of building harmony, synergy, and cooperation for the common good. As the president of the Pro Futuro Theologiae Foundation, on behalf of a wide group of collaborators from the Faculty of Theology of the Nicholas Copernicus University in Toruń, working on behalf of the Religious Freedom Laboratory, I would like to thank you for your presence, for the papers you prepared, and for the meeting, from which we will all leave with deeper reflection and methods of helping the victims of crime, because they are the ones we always put first. Our conference is available online and you can still log into it. There are many participants attending it online, so we encourage you to join us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Father President. Ladies and gentlemen, our conference should be a place of interdisciplinary, academic, broader or profound reflection. We're also interested in the fruits of this conference, some practical solutions. This conference should help us come up with concrete tools of shaping social relations, and this practical aspect is very close to the hearts of the governmental side and of the society. So I would like to ask Mr. Marcin Romanowski from the Ministry of Justice to take the floor. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to the conference. It pertains to one of the most fundamental rights and freedoms, the freedom of conscience and the freedom of religion. And this value has been recognized in all the documents of international law pertaining to human rights. But it is also and primarily natural law that does not depend on the decisions of a given lawmaker, because it is directly rooted in the existence of a human being as an individual, and it comprises or it assumes a relation to God and transcendence. And for this right to be successfully implemented in society, it must be formalized and concretized, and effective realization of this law has to be ensured. Therefore, we need to reflect on the shape of legal regulations and on the social aspects, on the practice of the functioning of legal regulations in a concrete reality. We need to do this in order to be able to consider how the rights and laws guaranteeing fundamental freedoms are obeyed. And of course, the freedom of conscience and confession is one of these fundamental rights. So a good reflection is important. We need to reflect on the reality that then becomes the subject of the decisions made by the lawmaker in a concrete social and legal reality. Therefore, I would like to thank you for this initiative of holding this academic, interdisciplinary, comparative reflection, because this contributes to the successful guarantee of the freedom of conscience and confession. We know that erroneous understanding of freedom, a kind of undermining of this notion, leads to slavery, and this twisted understanding of freedom is reflected in the phenomenon that is often referred to as cancel culture, that is the exclusion at the level of some convictions, some beliefs that are traditional or classical in nature. For example, what I mean, I mean the cancellation of Christianity that is stigmatized as a concept, and there are many views and judgments rooted directly in Christian values, and so they are dismissed as hate speech at the very level of the notion. But we need to protect our freedom. Poland, as my country, as my motherland, has got hundreds of years of tradition aimed at the protection of the freedom of conscience and confession. For hundreds of years, Poland was a shelter for myriads of Jewish communities that fled from persecution in other countries. In the 16th century, the Confederation of Warsaw guaranteed the freedom of confession and conscience to Catholics and all Protestant denominations. So this tradition is alive. This tradition is based on the idea of freedom, of republicanism, and on understood tolerance. And therefore, I am very happy that initiatives such as this conference take place in Poland, in Toruń. It is particularly important today when in the Western world, free debate and free discussion is limited. And Poland, as a place where religious tolerance has been present for centuries, is the right place to hold this free debate. And we wanted to state like this: we want Poland to remain the place where the freedom of conscience, of religion, and of opinions is cultivated. And I'm saying this not only as a scholar, as a theorist of law, but also as a representative of the Polish Ministry of Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, I would like to thank the organizers for making the effort to address such crucial issues. I would like to thank you for your presence here. This presence of many experts and practitioners from all over the world shows how important and how much needed the debate and a broad social dialogue are needed. So thank you very much, and I wish you a fruitful conference. Thank you, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, this word has not been emphasized, but you can see how much the synergy of various academic communities and social communities and the third sector groups is important, and this reflection will be fruitful. And more about the academic framework of the conference will be said by Professor Sasha Horvat, the academic director of this conference. Good morning.
The Ministry of Justice, Dr. Marcin Romanowski, dear and respected Professor Tomasz Huzarek, President of the Management Board of the Pro Futuro Teologiae Foundation and the Principal Investigator of the project Laboratory of Religious Freedom, dear and respected lecturers, dear and respected members of media, and also dear and respected guests and listeners, both here in the hall and all over the internet. I cordially greet you all in front of the organizing committee of the International Scientific Interdisciplinary Conference, Challenges to Religious Identity in Public Life, between Art and Medicine. So, in this beautiful city of Toruń, in the next 2 days, we will hear 27 lectures, which are divided into several thematic blocks. Our lecturers come from all over the world, from United States, Argentina, Great Britain, Netherlands, Norway, Italy, Spain, Slovenia, Germany, and of course, Poland. And what makes us especially happy is the fact that the vast majority of lecturers are with us here today in person. So, dziękuję for traveling such a long distance to be here with us today. The main topic of the conference is the reflection on religious identity in public life, with special emphasis on the fields of art and medicine. The respect and protection of religious identity in public life is currently one of the most pressing global concerns. Many religious groups and individuals around the world struggle with persecution and restrictions on religious freedom. Religious differences, inequalities, and protection of religious rights are the three keywords which underlie this conference. And it's also worth mentioning that this conference is just one of many other activities being designed and implemented as part of the project Laboratory of Religious Freedom. Also, today it should be emphasized that this beautiful Polish city of Toruń, the city of Nicolaus Copernicus, in the last couple of years, thanks to the efforts of many people involved, has become one of the central places for academic reflection on the issue of religious freedom in Europe and in the world. So, once again, thank you all for being here with us today. The organizing committee wishes you a rich and fruitful exchange of knowledge and experience, all with the aim of maintaining this fragile and indispensable human right in modern society, the right for freedom of religion or belief. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Professor, for the opening remarks. Szanowni Państwo, tak jak mówiłem, ta część przeprowadzona w języku
Gentlemen, as I've said, this part of the conference has been held in Polish and it's just finished, so I would like the Minister in particular for providing the networking of various entities that promote religious freedom. I would like to thank Reverend Professor Tomasz Huzarek for a very wise reply to this challenge, and I would like to thank Sasha for
developing the cooperation during the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, and now we will move in 5 minutes to the first session. Szanowni Państwo, za chwilkę przejdziemy do pierwszej sesji, którą poprowadzi...
Ladies and gentlemen, in 5 minutes we will start the first session and it will be chaired by Professor Alejandra Vanney. So we will meet in 5 minutes. Thank you very much.